Dr. Charles Omole joins us now. He is the Director General, Institute for Police and Security Policy Research, and we're going to be looking at the state of security in Nigeria. Good morning.
Morning.
It's good to see you in our studios.
Thanks for having me.
And this conversation is a big one, especially when we look at the fact that another attack. It's like one day, one attack. There was another attack that happened in NIPS, reported yesterday, but we believe it happened 2 days ago, perhaps overnight. And in that attack, we lost 2 soldiers and 1 policeman. It was actually reported as 3 security men. But when we finally saw the details, was that there were 2 soldiers and 1 policeman, beg your pardon, 1 policeman. So you're wondering, these people actually did come prepared. If they can take out soldiers and they're taking out policemen, you know, who are guarding a facility, a government facility, then they certainly have they're trying to certainly make a point. And we wonder, are we really ready? Are we really as prepared as we ought to be, you know, to be able to prevent these attacks from even getting close to the gates of institutions like this?
Thank you. Well, the truth is, there's going to be more of such attacks. The posture of our security landscape at the moment gives encouragement to these bad guys.
The posture of our security?
Yes, because it's completely largely reactive, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
So we wait for the next attack, then some responses. Now, the issue here is, I think I gave the analogy at an event last week where I said that, you know, if somebody's maybe had been diagnosed with stage 1 cancer, you have to use conventional medication. But if you become terminal and you are given, say, 3 months to live, you're allowed to use experimental drugs because that has become an existential threat. So if you apply that to our security, you know, we've been doing the same thing, you know, changing guards, but we're heading in the wrong direction. And I think, you know, something fundamental needs to shift. And if anything else, I've said it till I'm, you know, sound like a broken record, we need to upgrade the police infrastructure in the country. You know, talking about responding to these things, for example, Nigerians know that the entire Nigerian police force, guarding providing security for a country of over 900,000 square kilometers, have only one, as of today, one operating police helicopter. LA County has 27. That's the size of about 1,400 square kilometers just for LA County. That's 27. So we have 1 in the entire country. So we have a funding crisis for policing in Nigeria. And we can begin to do all this, you know, and all this recruit forest guard here, recruit forest guard there. That is not a solution. You know, part of the problem we have is the fact that we have too many silos in terms of our security infrastructure with lots of overlapping mandates. Is the solution to create another silo? So this is the problem. So I don't see a coherence in government response here, and that is the problem.
It's interesting you talk about silos, especially because you've also been a great advocate for state police.
Yes.
And we need that. Do you fear that that could also become another silo?
It could be, definitely, if it's not done properly. And I think I've been on record to say I have my fear the way they're going about the state police. But at this stage, I think we're still at the constitutional amendment stage. So there's no major cause for alarm yet. The alarm will come when the enabling acts, establishment acts, will need to be written by the National Assembly. That's when we now see the devil is in the detail. You see, let me take the issue of forest guard, for example. You see, our national reserve, our forest reserves, rather, have always been managed by regional and local governments, or later on, after independence, became state governments. 95% of our forest reserve in Nigeria are owned and operated by states. Federal government owns only 5%. So the forest guard, forest rangers have always been under the authority of state government, not federal government. Now, I can understand the federal government now thinking, okay, let's intervene. That is fine. But then what I expected the federal government to do was to ask, for example, the police to establish a forest protection unit, and so that can now be devolved to the state as part of devolution under state policing. Rather than what is happening now, where we're recruiting forest guards all over the place, they are being controlled directly by the NSA's office. They've been given 4 weeks training. They're not even being trained by the police. They're being trained by DSS. So you give them 4 weeks training and then give them AK-47. How are you vetting them? So we are creating more crisis for ourselves the way we are going about this, rather than do it in a coherent way, make them part of the police, and then when you're devolving policing rather, you move the forest guard activities to states, rather than the way it's been done at the moment.
I mean, forest guards, right now in the FCT, a lot of them are doing security work. A lot of them are security men. And this actually became a thing after the withdrawal of policemen from people, VIPs. And you know, I've heard you talk about that before, about how you didn't think that was done properly. However, what we're seeing right now in terms of the attacks that we're seeing in states, especially this one in NIPS, in Crew, because people need to understand how strategic NIPS is. NIPS is where the top brass goes through. It's where we train. It's a very important security place. So that brazenness of the attack on that place is one that people are still trying to grapple with. But I wanted to talk about something that you said before. You said it's important, the communication about insecurity in Nigeria, that we need a national spokesperson on insecurity. I've heard you talk about this before. Is that what will help the communication of the things that our security forces are doing and be able to buy the trust of the Nigerian people? Is that the way to go with it?
Yes, I believe essentially that's the way to go. I mean, yesterday I was made aware of a plan by people in government that they wanted to take some influencers to war front, so that they can see that our soldiers are working. And I said that was a bad idea, because I don't think any Nigerian will sit and say our soldiers are not working. We know they are working. The issue is whether, you know, they are working with proper tools and with proper intelligence. So that means they are recognizing that communication is an issue. Economy and security, given what's going on in Nigeria, are things that require a level of nuance that generalists cannot talk about. And that's what I meant by people who can speak to it with a level of authority and nuances that will reassure the public. The kind of communication I'm getting from people in government are too generalistic, let me put it that way. And that doesn't give me any assurance, you know, or that they're actually on top of it. So that's what I mean by the president might need to assign one spokesperson for security matters that can delve a bit deeper into explaining things. I mean, you see what happens in the place like US after an operation, they bring out videos, you see, you know, they explain what happened, you know, to the level of, they only leave out certain key security details. But in Nigeria, we don't hear anything. You know, the communication is bad, strategic communication is poor. So that's what I mean by there's a need for that to be communicated. But I think overall, the issue here for me is we need, the best way to put it is this. I remember in my former heart, when you know, as a consultant, if you want to do business process outsourcing, say you want to outsource your IT department to an external firm, one of the things you have to do is make the department efficient first before you outsource it. Because if you outsource inefficiency, it's going to waste a lot of money. So if you have a team of 100 staff and 50 staff can do the job, derive the efficiency first. Reduce staff to 50 before you outsource it. If you outsource 100, the gain of 50 will be gained by the other external company. So in the same way, if we are going to devolve policing, for example, we need to reform it. Because if we devolve policing the way it is right now, we are merely devolving dysfunction. And we're going to now have 36 plus 1 problem instead of just one problem. So there's a need for reform of policing to be done as a precursor to the devolution of policing. And nobody's talking about that.
Sorry, there was something we heard in the track that we played before we came on air, where there a lot of vigilante groups, they're asking for a lot of vigilante groups to be incorporated into the police, and then, you know, that would help with the state policing if we already have people that are vigilante members in those states. Is that something that you buy into as well?
Well, the thing is, if you are going to devolve policing, clearly one of the recommendations has to be that once a state decides to have its own police, they will have to mop up and absorb all these myriad of local security outfits, merge it as units within their state police. So there is just one state police that exists, rather than too many, too many actors. You know, already I've said it here before, we have dozens of armed non-state actors in Nigeria. And, you know, that's my concern about this forest guard, because we're not short of different groups of people with arms all over the place. You know, and think about this. If our established security out we don't need dispersal. We need more focus. And what's happening in terms of crime is displacement. One state will make deal with the terrorists, pay them. It's okay, we'll leave your state alone.
Go to the next
we'll
one.
go to the next one. So that is not solving the national problem.
I'm a little, I don't know if you are surprised that how many weeks on, we still have not been able to rescue the children in Oyo State or even in Borno State. Is this something that really bothers your mind as to capacity? Or do you think it is really about endangering the lives of the children at stake?
One has to be sensitive about response to this. But I remember there was a tweet I did some weeks, two weeks ago on this, that there are ways to get them out. The challenge at the moment, I mean, as somebody who's been with some of these officers, I remember a senior police officer was telling me the other day, he said, Doc, if I die, I know what will happen. After a month, they will send my family out of the police barrack. So he said, I'm not going to risk my life for this kind of work. You know, and how representative is that opinion? I don't know. So the truth is a lot. I mean, there was one DPO, I remember doing some training I did a few years ago, who said they were training some bandits. Once they got to the head of the forest, his men says, okay, we are not going with you. There's only the hunters that he took in. There is actual policemen, they all refuse to go into the forest.
So you think that perhaps what is...
So no, the issue is...
low morale could be what is...
It is part of the key. There's no way you do that without some form of casualty, either on one side or the other. But it can be done. The challenge at the moment is this. Every time we negotiate with the terrorists, we pay them, they release the people. We are merely empowering them for the next terrorist activity, for their kidnapping, as it were. So where if you take them out, that's a group of kidnappers that will never operate again. So what we've been doing, not just under this government, under previous, actually under Buhari government as well, is we negotiate, we give them money. After about 3 weeks, they go back out again and find the next victims.
Can you add to it this hope? Because initially when Amotekun was founded, the hope was that it would be able to stall the happenings of events like this, of incidences like this. Clearly, that has not materialized. Have we created something that we cannot manage, or do you think this is outside their remit?
No, it's not outside their remit. The challenge with Amotekun is that it's a child of no man's land, because if they are given basic old-style guns, if you keep them more than that, effectively they become state police, and that's unconstitutional. So this is a challenge. So they're in the middle of nowhere, so to speak, legally speaking. So the whole idea was for them to actually begin to bring some intelligence to the police. But the only state where Amotekun, in my own analysis, is working very well at the moment is Ogun State. That's because the former IGP, maybe because it was from Ogun State, they made sure certain things were in place. For example, based on the directive of state governor, the Amotekun in Ogun State work with the police. The DPOs can control the Amotekun in Ogun State. So there's a seamless working. Whereas Ondo State is the opposite. Ondo State feels they are competition to the police, so they don't cooperate with the police. So this is the problem of when you have organizations that are not on strict legal footing. You know, give them sophisticated weapons, then they become police. Give them basic weapons, they are ineffective against the bad guys. So really, the only thing they can do is become the eyes and ears of the police, which is provide intelligence. Even that they are not doing, because the mobility needed to do that in terms of, you know, within the forest, they don't have it. You can't be walking around the forest on foot every day. There has to be some form of mobility support. So they're not well funded enough. The state policing will solve this, definitely. But what I'm saying is that the federal government, rather than establishing new outfits, just incorporate everything to the police, so that when you're now giving the state, the police, all the units will go to the state. It's more coherent, it's tidier, than this situation now where NSA is now controlling it. Go and say all over the world, NSAs are advisory. We now have an NSA's office that is now controlling operations.
Well, we do hope that somebody will be contradicting you by actions, and that it will be felt in the impact.
You know, just before we go, you know, there was, I remember during the Buhari regime, you wrote some kind of
National Security Summit.
Yes, the National Security Summit, and it had all of these recommendations.
That's correct.
And we see that this happens all the time. Someone comes up with recommendations, and then nothing is done about it. We do hope that changes.
Well, it's a fine place to leave it. We have to thank you very much for speaking with us this morning. Dr. Charles Omole is the Director General, Institute for Police and Security Policy Research. That's where we draw the curtains on Sunrise Elite this beautiful and wet Wednesday morning. We hope that somehow we've been able to bring a bit of sunshine to your day, and we hope that the rest of the day is productive. Thank you for watching. I'm Maokwe Ogunyusuf.
Drive safely. The roads are slippery. Have a great day ahead. I'm Kayla Megwa. Business Morning is at the top of the hour.